After the Game Awards, Rigged was trending.
Video games, video games. Video games, video games.
So the Game Awards 2024, final thoughts. I think we learned some lessons at the awards. We love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth here. Did not take Game of the Year, and I thought that it was an uphill battle just based on when it came out. It's not as fresh in everybody's minds as the games that came out later in the year. Oh, Jeff, you're making an excuse. Games have won early in the year before. They have. But I don't think that takes away from the importance of being fresh in voters' minds. And I think that was clearly seen, with Metaphor winning RPG of the Year. It's hard for me to give my full thoughts on Metaphor as I have not played it, and I have not seen the entire game. I've seen a bunch of the game. I've not seen all of it. There's a classic RPG style to that one that Rebirth doesn't have. I mean, there's turn-based RPG in there. Are we going to go leaning back more towards that direction? I don't know. But once Rebirth lost RPG of the Year, you knew it had no shot at winning Game of the Year, because Metaphor was also up for Game of the Year. That's just common sense. But also eliminated at that point was the Elden Ring DLC, because the Elden Ring DLC was also up for RPG of the Year. And I was heavily against this game even being considered. And I just broke my own rule. I called it a game, and that was the issue I had with it, that it is not a game and it was an expansion. And I'm not going to get into all that in detail, because we've already done that. The TLDR version is you can't buy Shadow of the Erdtree by itself and play it by itself. You have to buy Elden Ring. You have to get to a certain point in Elden Ring to even play it. So I don't consider that a game, because you can't play it on its own. That's just my opinion. But when Metaphor won RPG of the Year, it also eliminated Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree from winning the Game of the Year, just like it did Rebirth. You check the other games, you think Rebirth is better gameplay? Obviously, I think so. There would be a lot of people that would think that Wukong maybe had better gameplay than Rebirth. So Metaphor wins RPG of the Year. So we were down to 3 for Game of the Year at that point. Or 4, excuse me. We were down to 4. Astro Bot, Metaphor, Balatro, and Wukong. They all won in their individual categories. Balatro won Best Independent Game and Best Debut Indie Game. It had to, right? Because nothing else in that category was up for Game of the Year. Wukong won Best Action Game, and Astro Bot won Best Action Adventure Game. So they're all in it at this point. So we were down to those. And with Astro Bot taking a whole bunch of shit, including Director of the Year, or Best Game Direction, which I disagree with. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what goes into game direction, because I've never done it. Astro Bot is fun for the family. However, as far as depth, quality, graphic, story, and all around, Rebirth, no contest. A lot of those things that you just said there is why I don't agree with Astro Bot winning Best Game Direction. It's the same as in a lot of industries. They're the ones in charge. They lead the team. They're responsible for the final product of the game. If it's great, it's on them. If it sucks, it's on them. Nothing against Astro Bot. You guys that were here and watched me play it, I love the game. The Astro Bot was a lot of fun. But all of the moving parts in Rebirth compared to a 3D platformer, in my ignorant opinion, and I want to clarify that, never being a video game director, in my ignorant opinion, I would think it was a much harder job to put together Rebirth. That's just my opinion. When you look at how crazy the story was, how many set pieces did we have, all the mini games, everything has to tie together, one zone to the next zone to the next zone, putting all those pieces together and getting the game that you got in Rebirth, to me, I think that should have been, no doubt, Best Game Direction. I think Hamaguchi got robbed there, but you guys know I'm a mark for him. Obviously a mark for Rebirth. Nothing against Astro Bot, but it just seems like to me that Rebirth was a more complex project. And to be able to get that done in 3 years, that's insane to me. So I don't agree with the Best Game Direction. Scott says you had a blast playing Astro Bot, but you loved Rebirth better. Yes, absolutely. So let's try to figure out how Astro Bot gets Game of the Year, because we look at what's left at this point. We've eliminated Rebirth and we've eliminated Elden Ring DLC. So we're down to Astro Bot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, and Metaphor. Astro Bot comes out the winner. So what were they voting for this year? Because Astro Bot, of all the games, controls, I think Astro Bot had the best controls. Where I wanted to jump, I would land. Where I wanted to move, I would end up. And that's, you gotta have that in a 3D platformer. So if you look at ease of controls, and I don't mean ease of game. No, there's a difference. Ease of controls meaning you don't have to fight the controls. You're not trying to do something and your character does something else. Because there was even, I mean, Rebirth's not perfect at that, right? There's sometimes I'd try to do something in Rebirth, I end up doing something else. It didn't happen very much, but it happened. I never felt like that in Astro Bot. I think Astro Bot is the most, well, I can't say because Balatro I've never played, but to me, Astro Bot is probably the most simplest to play of the other games. You're not dealing with complex systems. The Rebirth battle system is very complex. Black Myth Wukong looked very complex. Elden Ring, very complex. Metaphor, turn-based, but that's complex because a lot of turn-based, you got to think. Balatro, like I said, I can't comment, but Astro Bot, out of all these, I think, is the easiest to just pick up a controller, sit down, and play. And that may have factored into it. I'm going to assume that the backlash for the Elden Ring DLC, they got it. They understood it. They didn't vote for it. And hopefully they learned their lesson and we won't get another DLC up for Game of the Year again. After the Game Awards, rigged was trending. Okay, well, Astro Bot rigged. But you read those posts and a lot of people think it's the ones that wanted other games. Their game didn't win, so they're saying it's rigged. I mean, you can't say, you can think it. There's no evidence to say that, so we could just sit here and just say, oh, it was a conspiracy. Sony paid for it. You would hope. I would just hope that stuff like that would not go on. I would just hope that it wouldn't, right? So I don't really want to go that route here because that's just like super fringe speculation that shady stuff went on behind the scenes. If Astro Bot was not a good game, all right, I'd kind of listen to that stuff, but Astro Bot on its own is an amazing game. It is. So what do you guys think? Why did Astro Bot win? What do you agree with the pick? I can't say I disagree with it because when we played it and I was talking about what games I would have up for Game of the Year, that I had Astro Bot as one of them. So I can't say, oh, it's bullshit that Astro Bot won. No, I can be like, my favorite didn't win. But I don't think it's bullshit that Astro Bot won at all. I think Astro Bot is a deserving game. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you know what? It rips off so many games. There's so much Mario stuff in it and you know, the N64 3D games. And I'm like, well, every game has influences. And I think they had influences and it was a love letter to all the games that inspired it. I don't think they ripped anything off. You know, but if you want to say that, okay, well, you could say, well, guess what? Rebirth. Yeah, that game's already Final Fantasy VII. You're reusing the same story and stuff. So you could say that about Rebirth if you wanted to. Astro Bot's original. I think it's original in its own right. There's a lot of influences in it. Somebody did a video. Everything that is in that game, you can find it in another game. But I don't think that makes it unoriginal. I just think that makes it heavily inspired. And I think they took the best things from 3D platformers, you know, since the mid-90s and put them all into one game together, adding in very tight controls. It won because it's a high-budget 3D platformer at the level of some of the great 3D Mario games. Was it high budget? I didn't know that either. But I guarantee you it wasn't as high budget as the other games. I would guess Balatro had the only budget less than Astro Bot on that list anyway. I could be wrong, I'm guessing. I thought it was the right choice. It feels like Mario and Nintendo catered to almost everyone. What if Jeff is giving Sony some awards so we get some big trailers? See, yeah, I mean, of course, people think that stuff. But when you look at it, I don't think that's the case. I think, my opinion, I think the games they're the ones that want to be on that. I don't think he has to beg anybody to be on there. I think they want to be on there because it gets such a high, it gets such a high viewership. You know, it's more like a PlayStation State of Play does not get as much attention like a Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards. So I think it's the other way around. I think the games want to be on there. I think we're at that point, but that's just speculation. Balatro was creative and clever. I still need to check that out and see what the hype is about. I don't disagree with Astro Bot. It wasn't my pick. I understand the pick. It would have been one of my top for game of the year. I don't know, maybe because it was just something the game industry needed. I mean, if you look at games where you just sit down and play level, and you don't have to slow walk for 15 minutes, and then, oh, L stick moves, R stick moves the camera, square punches, R2 shoot your gun, watch a 10-minute cutscene, walk 2 feet, get another 10-minute cutscene, right? That's the game industry today. There's not many just sit down, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Of course, there's cutscenes in Astro Bot. I'm not saying there's not. But compared to these other games, it's not even close. So I think it was also a refresh of like something that the games industry needs is just sit down and play a video game. And I think it did that very well. Best narrative. Metaphor, ReFantazio 1. Rebirth lost this one. The other ones that were up, Silent Hill 2, Hellblade 2, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is the new Yakuza game. So I have not seen Like a Dragon. I have not seen Hellblade 2. Metaphor, I've not seen the whole thing. I've seen a bunch of it. I think it's really well written from what I've seen. And Silent Hill 2 we have played. So I don't have a problem with this because for both Silent Hill 2 and Rebirth, it's not a new narrative. Silent Hill 2 is almost beat for beat exactly the same as the original. I don't have a problem with that. But when you're going for best narrative, well, it's not original. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is probably 75% what happened in the original game, if I had to guess off the top of my head. So we got a lot of that that's not original either. Like I said, Like a Dragon and Hellblade 2, I don't know anything about. So I don't have an issue with Metaphor winning best narrative. You don't need an Xbox. Yes, they have beat it into your head that you do not need an Xbox. So best art direction, Metaphor won that. I think, yeah, the art style in that game, very unique, very cool. I like the color scheme, the menu layouts, all that shit. I got no issue with that. Best score and music. That's where we Rebirth people won. That was the one other than Game of the Year that I wanted it to win. I have a lot of attachment in the 9 or so months that we played that game this year to that soundtrack. It might be my favorite soundtrack of all time for video games. So I was so glad to at least see Rebirth get that, especially with over 400 different songs in the game. Like, I remember when they said that in the trailer, the developer preview. Oh, there's over 400 different tracks in this game. I'm like, what? No way. And then, yeah, like, think about it. Every single thing you did in that game, there's a different song for it. There's like 7 different Chocobo songs. So, like, I'm so glad to win that. But what it went up with against Astro Bot, amazing soundtrack. Metaphor, I like it. I didn't get like, oh, it's crazy vibes when I listened to it, but I haven't seen the whole game. Silent Hill 2, I would say, there's some really good songs in it, but it's also very atmospheric music. And Stellar Blade was amazing. I was nervous with that. I thought Stellar Blade might win that one. So I am very thrilled that Rebirth won music. They're memeing Phil Spencer. He sat on the front row. Ash brought one. He just looks defeated. Well, I wonder how much of that's an Xbox. This is an Xbox. Your mom's an Xbox. I wonder how much of that is actually him or Microsoft is forcing him to do this. If I had to guess and bet money, I would guess it's the second one. Are you annoyed that the messaging is so affected? It's stupidly brilliant. I don't know. I think what it's doing is just telling people, hey, if you were thinking about getting an Xbox, don't. You don't need to. Because your mom's tits are an Xbox. Spencer lost the console war. Microsoft, he didn't lose it. He inherited the loss. Don Matrick lost it. Don Matrick lost it at E3 2013. Sony won it when they said, you know how you play a used game like this, and one friend gave a game to another. It was over. It was dead. That won the console war right there. Microsoft Xbox was dead at that point. So Spencer didn't lose it. He inherited the loss. He tried to save it and failed. Yeah, Xbox One was $100 more than the PS4 because it forced you to buy the Kinect. So it was already $100 more than the PS4. They came out with you could not play used games. You had to repurchase a license for it. Even though they went back on that, it was too late. They lost right there that E3. It's been over ever since then. Best audio design, Hellblade 2 one. I can't comment on this. I have not played that game. Best performance. What a weird category. Like it just says best performance. It doesn't have like best voice actor or just best performance. And then they don't tell you who they played. It's got the actor's name and the game they were in. So the woman from Hellblade 2 won. Haven't played it. Can't comment. The only ones in there I've heard. Well, I've heard three of the 5. I haven't seen Life is Strange Double Exposure, but we know Brianna White, who is Aerith in Rebirth. Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws. I've seen some of that game, so I know she's the main character. I've seen her performance. And then Luke Roberts, who we found out was James in Silent Hill 2. I think he was amazing. But they don't say who these people played, which is absolutely nuts. Like, why don't you say the character's name? So Balatro won the best indie game. You knew that was going to happen. It would have been weird if it didn't, being up for Game of the Year. I think everybody else in that category knew they weren't going to win. If we're up against a Game of the Year nominee, and we're not a Game of the Year nominee, well, we're not going to win. Best action game, Black Myth Wukong. I thought the only one, I think I did pick that one. I think it was going to have competition from Stellar Blade. So best action adventure, Astro Bot gets the win there, beating out Prince of Persia, Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill, okay, this is weird. What's the difference between best action and best action adventure? Because how is Silent Hill 2 action adventure and not action? What's the difference there? But Astro Bot won best action adventure game. You knew it was going to, because it's the only one in there that was up for Game of the Year. So again, you knew that the other games. Interesting that Zelda, I'm glad Zelda got a nomination there though. Star Wars Outlaws, I can't believe got nominated. I haven't heard one person say, man, that Star Wars Outlaws game is awesome. Like, I watched it and I thought it was boring watching it. Again, I haven't played it. I don't know how it feels to play. But it was a glitch fest. Stealth was broke. The logic of the enemies was terrible. So I can't believe that was even nominated. Best fighting game, Tekken 8. I love the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting collection. It's given me the first chance to play these games. I think it's amazing. But I think that was also a dangerous nomination because there's nothing new on there. It's just a collection of games. I don't think that should get best game of the year or fighting game or any of that when it's just a collection of older games. So I'm glad Tekken 8 won that. Best family game, Astro Bot. You knew that was going to win. Dude, people are throwing a fit that Fallout won best adaptation and not Arcane. They're going insane. I've not seen Arcane, but they are acting like you would think Fallout was shit the way that they're reacting to this. I loved Fallout. I thought it was amazing. I haven't seen Arcane. I don't know anything about League of Legends, so even if it was good, I wouldn't know. But they are acting like a turd one or something. So I'm assuming it's just diehard psycho fanboys that are throwing these fits, because it doesn't make any sense. So Fallout was friggin' amazing. Most anticipated game. If GTA 6 didn't win, then the fix was in. Alright, so let's go to the reveals. The new games. And I think we're learning a lesson here in general. Sequels and franchise revivals, that's what's going to get people talking. The only non-sequel or revival, the only brand new one that people are talking about, or adaptations of properties that people know, the only one that people are talking about is the Naughty Dog one, and we'll get into that. But you know, like the one that's coming out from like the Shadow of the Colossus team, I don't see anybody talking about that because we don't know what the hell it is. So the Naughty Dog game, that was the last one. That was the major reveal because, you know, oh, it's Naughty Dog. They have such a great track record. They have a new game. We don't know shit about the game. So it wasn't like, oh, here's this awesome game. It was, here's the next game from this awesome studio. And that's why people are talking about it. One of the reasons. The other reason is, if you guys seen any of the people talking about that game today online, and they're all going insane, arguing insane about what the character looks like, the main character. So like, that's what the focus is on, is what the character looks like. And you know why that is? Because we don't know what the hell kind of game it is. So what they're going to do is they're going to find something in the trailer that's identifiable, and that's what they have to talk about. And the only thing in that trailer, besides like Porsche having advertisements everywhere, was the look of the main character. That's the only thing you really see. So everybody's arguing about that. But we don't know anything about the game. So if you want to be excited about that game, the only reason you can be excited is I love Naughty Dog games. So I trust that this game is going to be amazing because of my experience with past Naughty Dog games. That's all you got to go on with that one. So The Witcher 4, giant sequel. It's been years since Witcher 3 came out. So everybody's talking about this one. What's the name of the Naughty Dog game again? That's another issue. I have no friggin' idea. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. That's a lot. I don't know. That's a lot of words to me for a brand new franchise. If it was like Intergalactic was the first one and then the sequel was Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, that'd make more sense or whatever. But Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Yeah, Virtua Fighter, I'm excited about. I've only ever played Virtua Fighter 2, and that's the only Virtua Fighter game I have, and I haven't played it that much. I played it a long time ago, years ago. But I've always wanted to try the series, and so I will be interested, no doubt, in Virtua Fighter 6 or whatever they end up calling it. I'm a big Naughty Dog fan, but most of the people that made them great have left. It's just Neil and Select Tires post The Last of Us 2. A lot of studios get that way. Look at Rocksteady. The people that made the great Arkham games, they're gone. And we got Suicide Squad. I like The Last of Us 2. So if a lot of those guys are still there, I have faith in this game. I enjoyed that game. And that's another thing, Turok. Interesting choice to go third person. A lot of you guys in the chat were excited for it. I was disappointed. But I've never been big into the franchise. So I don't have that, Turok nostalgia. It looked kind of cheap art to me. And I didn't like the third person. I hope I'm wrong. For you guys that want a good Turok game. I hope it's good, 6. I thought it looked cool. The Ninja Gaiden side scroller. Borderlands 4. The good thing to me is it looked like Borderlands. You know, Borderlands has that distinct vibe. And if you change any of that shit, you're going to have a problem. It just looked like more cool Borderlands. So I'm excited for that one. So I've learned that I guess what I totally missed on this Elden Ring, the new Elden Ring game, it's co-op. It's like a 3-player game. It's not like Elden Ring 2. It's not. It's like an Elden Ring world game, multiplayer game. That split fiction game looks really cool, where the one world was science fiction and the other world was fantasy. I thought that looked pretty cool. Well, you know what? What about that weird-ass Pac-Man game? What the hell was that? A new Pac-Man game, and it's a Metroidvania horror game? That is, you want to talk about like a risk. Whoever came up with that idea and greenlit that has massive balls. To change Pac-Man like that, holy shit. They got their balls in a wheelbarrow like Randy on South Park. So I'm interested in this Pac-Man game just because it's Pac-Man. If you would have taken Pac-Man out of that game, I would have had zero interest in it. But because it's Pac-Man, I'm interested. Pac-Man was the top moment. Dude, when you first realized that this is Pac-Man, it was like, holy shit. Rebirth PC, so anybody that's been waiting for the PC version of that, I'm happy for you guys. You get to experience it now. Okay, so I guess they confirmed that the game that looked like Yakuza, made by the Yakuza people, is not. It's a new IP. Onimusha coming back. Now, do we have anybody in here that's played Onimusha? I have the first one. Older style Japanese game, like feudal Japan looking game, but it's Resident Evil-ish. Now there's been a bunch of sequels to it that I don't know anything about, and they were all on PlayStation 2, all these games, I believe. Well, we saw that it's coming back, and it was just a cinematic trailer, and it looked really action heavy, kinda, Sekiro-ish. I wonder if it's gonna be like that. I'm not really excited for the Outer Worlds 2 because I played the first game. It was cool. I liked what I played, but I didn't want to stay with it and finish it, so I never did. And so I'm just not excited for that one. Interesting Game Awards. I think there's a lot to talk about. Astro Bot cleaning up, but it was a loaded year. Like, there was a lot of great games this year, and I think any game that got nominated for Game of the Year in this field, when you look at games that didn't make it, Stellar Blade, Silent Hill 2, Zelda, there's a bunch of other games that could have been in any other year considered Game of the Year. This year was stacked. So it sucks for me and FF7 fans that Rebirth didn't win, but I don't have an issue with at all with Astro Bot winning. It was a freaking amazing game. Great year, 2024, I think, and hopefully 2025 will be just as crazy as 2024.